All right, everybody. I want to welcome you back to day 2, track 1 of the Python Web Conference. I am joined by Érico Andrei, and we're going to talk to you about building a collaborative platform, a news platform with Python. So, Érico, I will let you take it away, and we'll save. Please ask questions in the Slido. I'll be watching the Slack channel, track 1 for any questions as well. If you drop them in there, I'll make sure we get Érico to answer them for you. So, without any further ado, I'll let you go.
Thank you. It's good to be back here with the Python web community. So let's talk a bit about building a collaborative news platform with Python. First things first, some introductions. I'm Érico Andrei. I'm Brazilian, currently living in sunny summer Berlin. I've been doing open source for quite a long time. I'm not new to the Python and clone works. I am a Python Software Foundation Fellow. I'm a Python Foundation board member. In the past, I've been to many different companies, Microsoft in the beginning of my career, like ages ago, last century actually. Then Simples Consultoria, Rocket Internet, Condotex, and now I'm part of Pendect. Too long didn't read Pendect is the too long didn't read collaborative news platform. Goal is to be factual and biased. We launched in March. We are still in beta. We are forced to launch as soon as possible because there was this small event happening through the world, and everybody started consuming news like they never did before. We are 3 co-founders of the company. Lovely Ashley Winter, one of the most amazing designers I ever had the pleasure of working with. Christoph Young, the genius behind Pendect, the whole idea and concept was his. And of course, myself, I'm doing the technical part in here. Planning Pendect, it starts, let's say 2017 or 2018, when Christoph and I were talking about life, and he told me about his great idea of a news platform where you would have short cards, factual cards, that are way better for you to consume than long articles, especially because most of the articles today, they bring 1 paragraph of information and 25 of background. What we wanted was a little bit different, is basically, okay, this is the news, this is what happened. And if you want more, go to other places. But the important thing is network effects with the community, the idea of the community producing the cards, submitting to the platform, being reviewed by other community members, and then we move on. The idea of heavily using metadata categorization to organize the information in a way that you can relate and follow just things you want. Then you, as a registered member, say, okay, I want to see only soccer news, and I want to see about Brazilian politics, and I want to see about entertainment. And then I have my personal feed that was created by other community members like myself. Some of the technical requirements for this endeavor were quite intriguing. First of all, we needed a collaborative workflow. We needed a workflow that allowed someone, let's call this person a contributor, would go there, write a new card with some information, and send for publication. Another user from the platform would take a look at the card, read, review, eventually add new sources, put an image, or even request some modifications, and then put it to publishing. What happens if the quality of the card is not good enough? To send it back, the user adjusts a little bit and then send it back. So it's a simple but really powerful workflow that you need to control. And one of the things we saw in an earlier presentation today, finite state machines are always the type of thing you think, oh, I can write one, it's a bunch of fifs, or just say save a state there and let's see how it goes. In the end, Trying to do one by yourself is a nightmare because it always starts simple and then you keep adding a bunch of controls and so on, permission checks, and then life gets hard. Talking about permission, you need to have permission control. Who can see a card when the card is not yet published? Who can see the card I just submitted for publication? We wanted to have granular control to the point that in certain categories of information, I wanted a certain group of people to be able to go there and review cards or to submit cards. We needed metadata. We talked one slide before about adding information about the locales and the people and the organizations that are being mentioned in that card. We also, of course, want to tag all the cards and we want to be able to relate to them. It needs to be SEO friendly because if we're dealing with news, it's not about search engine marketing, it's more about search engine optimization. You need to appear on Google News, you need to appear on organic searches, you need to be able to attract people to your platform. Also, one of the things we discussed was try to avoid at all costs to the syndrome of, oh, it's not invented here, or I didn't write this part of the code, so I don't want to take care of that. Our goal was to be as much as we could leverage on specialized service providers. So I'm not going to maintain, for instance, an email server. Makes no sense, or even some tagging feature or something like that. And we wanted everything to be open source. One of the things is we are cleaning parts of our platform and opening up and putting as add-ons, for instance, for Clone, or even for some things for JavaScript and so on and so forth, because it makes sense. We want to leverage this platform. We want to leverage all the logic behind it as an open source project as well. And what about the stack? How do we pick a stack? So first thing, Clone. I'm part of the Clone community. I've been doing Clone for quite a long time. And after the first few talks with Christoph, I decided to sit with him during afternoon. And we got out of the box Clone installation, and we were able to create the MVP, the basics of the MVP. Okay, we want a content type that are going to have different fields for different types of information, like who's being mentioned in this card, which organization, which locations. So adding that type of field information through the schema editor on Clone, done. Editing the workflow, also doable through the web. Controlling permissions, adding fields to the user, also doable. So most of the features were out of the box. Of course, from proof of concept to something that goes live, it takes a long time, but the idea that Clones gives you a system that you can simply go and play with it until it's okay for you to prototype, it's amazing. And after you start working, instead of basically writing features on top of a framework, you have already features in place that you can adapt instead of trying to every time build everything. So I want to add some fields to the registration form. Clone already has these features. Eventually, you want a little bit of customization there. You want to show different fields depending on the landing page the person came from. Perfect. This is adaptation, not to write a bunch of code out of nowhere. And of course, both Clone and myself, we have a proven record with news portals. In Cities Consultoria, one of our main source of income, source of revenue were basically news portals in Brazil. So we were dealing with journalists and the requirements to get things live and fast on a daily basis. So Clone is better proven to these kind of solutions. and of course, a friendly community with very smart people. Like sitting through the last two talks shows me that this is the right community. Okay, we have really smart people working with us, and everyone is willing to share their knowledge. It's not like, okay, you need to pay me so I can talk to you. And here, people share knowledge, people help you, and that's good. We decided to use Wikipedia. I don't know who's aware of the Wikipedia, but basically the Wikipedia, between other stuff, it's a project from the, I believe, the University of Leipzig and other organizations. They got the Wikipedia data set, they process the information, and they have services basically to allow you to navigate in a structured way. So you can make Spark QL queries, asking, list me all the content management servers that are written in Python and are older than 10 years. You can write a query like that and it gives you answer. But for us, the most interesting feature of Wikipedia was their Spotlight project. It's basically a REST API. You send a set of data there, like a text. It's going there, it's going to detect with a certain level of confidence which entities are there. And you can filter. In our case, we always filter for people, locations, and organizations. So we send the card, the information that was submitted by our contributor, get it back already processed. One interesting thing is Spotlight has a Docker image you can run locally. We're doing so, but the data set is a bit outdated. If you take a look on the image on this slide, you can see that clone, the last release version was 5.0.4. And I imagine Philip Power like crying now because everything that he did to get 5.2 out of the door. But you can basically go there and generate your own data sets from Wikipedia, and you can keep working. Another thing we have is Tumblr as image server. There was a discussion on community.clone.org a few days ago about dealing with images. Truth to be told, I am a fan of Tumblr for quite some time right now. In the past, I used that with PHP systems, with web systems. It's really easy to integrate, but the advantage is the fact that they have a community of their own behind that, and the software itself was written by this Brazilian news portal, huge news portal. So they use that every day to basically serve a few hundreds of millions of images. So it's proven to be working. It does scaling, so same way Plan does, but also does smart cropping, stuff like, okay, I really want to focus on the face of people, not cutting blindly in the middle of the image. And also they support natively WebP. That's amazing if you know what you're doing in terms of caching. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on. And of course, we have a little bit of everything else. First thing, we use Cloudflare because SSL termination, even though it's way easier and cheaper than it was in the past, it still puts some processing power that you could basically offload to Cloudflare. And of course, they have a CDN. You can distribute images and JavaScript and CSS and other static files through the globe. It's really practical for you. We use Sentry. For Clone, we use Collective Sentry. Thank you, Andreas Young, been doing most of the work there. It's basically a really good solution. We also use Sentry for the Tumblr. It's already integrated there, so it's easy. We use Mailgun to send emails. We use IFTTT to, as you can see in the image here, to publish things on our subreddit, to send tweets, to publish on our Telegram channel, to publish on Facebook. We are going to roll out part of these integrations to Zapier in the next few weeks, because Zapier is better for things like Twitter, and it's worse for things like Telegram. But our idea is to distribute to 2 different places and specialize where we can take most of the solution. And one technical decision we did, even though Clone has this out of the box, was to use Gravatar for the user pictures. The decision was mostly to provide an out of the box solution for the, okay, users have pictures, instead of filling the form and then uploading an image, we already give one for them for free. Fact, we are now rolling back the whole solution of Clone, so you will be able also to upload your own picture. And how we build Connect, and here things get interesting. For quite a few times since 2015, every single Python project I did, except for Clone, some Clone projects, small ones, but everything was with Python 3, right? And I use type hints on a daily basis since a long time. I've been the maintainer of WebSauna for a while, and in there everything is typed. We have we've been using f-strings for quite some time as well. And in this project, one of the things that I got passionate about was data classes to describe the type of information I was passing around. Okay, I know I could be doing the same thing with, for instance, with interfaces, but the whole idea of the whole integration of data classes into PyCharm, that's my hello PyCharm JetBrains, it's my tool of choice. It's really good. So it makes it way easier to write code, and I write well-defined contracts to implement these data transition from point A to point B. Okay. Besides that, some of the things I use on a frequent basis here to speed up development and guarantee some quality. Black, by default, isort, flykate, code analysis from Clone. One of the things I still need to improve is how my Black configuration, my code analysis configuration, they should not conflict. There's one edge case where they do, but it's something that it does not bite me so often, so it's not a big deal. But I have a flykate for bugbear and other doc strings and so on, just to avoid simple mistakes, or avoiding also to shadowing Python keywords or Python reserved words or Python functions. Also, when it came to Clone, even though Clone has this amazing set of add-ons, one of the things I decided was to keep it as simple as possible. So in terms of add-ons, even though there are many I would love to use in this project, like faceted navigation is one of them, for at least for the MVP, the whole idea was, okay, let's keep it simple. So of course we have collective sentry, as I said before. We have Z3C form data grid field, because in the same card you can have many sources. Imagine a new card about NFL player being hired by another team. So this news article is going to break out in 5, 6, 7 different outsources. We list all of them, so you can come in here, understand what's the news, and then, okay, I want to read a little bit more about that, and then you click and you go to other places. And to implement these multiple choices, we use data grid field. We have content rules lack, because we are a small team, but we want to be informed about, okay, there's a new user on the site, or a user submitted a new card, so we need to go there and basically review the card. Or a card was published and so on and so forth. So we have a bunch of content rules implemented with content rules Slack. I'm going to talk more about this in a while, but it's like the type of thing that's easy to implement on your side, even as a user, and it pays off in terms of productivity. And we have like something that I believe it's the core of our solution at the moment is super.clone. To do things like, okay, I'm going to follow a topic, I'm going to follow a contributor, or I want to do an action in this card like vote, bookmark, and so on. To do that, instead of creating content types or writing on the content itself or setting up a separate database, a relational database with SQL Alchemy, we decided to go with super.clone. That gives us most of the features out of the box, and it's not hard to implement. In terms of content type, we decided also to keep it simple. So first of all, most of our content is revolves around categories, and categories inside categories like subcategories. So if you look at the image, we have categories, politics. Inside politics, we have American. Inside American, you have US, Brazil, Mexico, South America, Canada, Central America, and so on and so forth. Each one of these categories is actually a folder dexterity type with collection behavior. So imagine collections that look for content inside the content tree, inside the tree they are in. So, for instance, when I publish a card on Brazil, so politics, American, Brazil, I can see the same card appearing in Politics America and the same card appearing in Politics, and of course the same card appearing on the root. This is one of the beauties that Clone gives you for almost for free. That's the fact that you can create this nested structure of content. And basically you put a content down there and it's still visible from other places in the site. And of course we have a card that's a similar, it's kind of a news item, but more categories for the metadata and classification. So we have organization, location, people, we have some other flags to indicate where the content comes from, and so on and so forth. And from the base Clone content types, we use collection. It's basically to create a story that's unfolding. If you go on the site right now, you have on the right side of the chart, there's something for COVID-19. You click, it's a collection grouping by all stories that are related to COVID-19, no matter which section they are. If they are a response from the US government, something that Donald Trump said about COVID, it's going to appear the same way. If it's from Brazil, it's the same way that if it's on the health category. And on top of that, we use also folder and image. And to be honest, we use folder because we have a folder called images where we put images that can be used for more than one collection or one card. Okay, so the whole idea of, okay, if I have an image, it always ends in the same place. We are using this one in here, and folders are mostly used for that. Everything else falls into either category or collection. And by the way, coming back, this is the form you are going to see when you contribute with a new card. It's quite simple. You put a source, you select the category. If you're inside the category, it comes already pre-filled for you. You give it a title, you put a small summary, 1-2 paragraphs, and submit contribution for your reader, okay? In terms of what do we do with Clone? First thing is the initial idea, and it's on our future, is to use a React frontend, mostly because it's something that I would say it's the way to go. But before that, we needed to have an MVP. We went for the Clone Classic or Clone Core way. And browser layer on top of the, with this browser layer, we basically adapt most of the forms. So today, if you go to pendact.com, when you log pendact.com/dashboard, it's my feed. I keep the URL, but I replace the logic and the display of the content information there. Also, the old author page that in Clone is clone.org/author/username. For us, it became contributor profile. So you can go to pendact.com/contributor/@EricoF, and then you can see everything that I submitted, all my badges, and so on and so forth. And to implement the integration with Tumblr, there are many possible ways. One of them would be to basically upload the image from Clone to Tumblr, or from Clone to S3 bucket, or any other type of object storage. But what we decided to do is to be a little bit a simpler approach in here. We adapt the image scaling and the scale browser views to every time we generate a new tag, instead of generating the tag for the Clone app imaging or Clone scaling, we generate a tag pointing to Tumblr. Already assigned the URL to avoid misusage. Like it's one of the things they recommend you to do on Tumblr, to sign every URL to avoid people simply start DOSing you with changing parameters on the URL to generate new images. So we do that, and when we generate the image, Tumblr comes to Clone, gets the image, the original image, generates the scaled version already cropped, and caches it on a Redis server, and then push it out to the user. Okay, and of course we have Varnish in front of the solution. After Varnish, we have Cloudflare. So in every point in here, we also cache this image. It's quite effective, and of course could generate some problems, as we are going to talk in lessons learned. Besides that, there's my favorite thing in Clone, that's content rules. We have content rules for a bunch of things in the portal. When a user creates their account, we send an email back. We write to Slack. We I believe for new users this too. When a user sends their first contribution, the first card, we send a thank you email telling, okay, it's being reviewed, and so on and so forth. We also change some settings in his profile. We move, we announce on Slack, and so on. When a card is published, we send email to the user, to the contributor that created the card. We announce on Slack, we push to EFTP and to Zapier, and this information is published through other channels. Besides that, we had to create a trigger that's really interesting, that when a principal is added to or removed from a group, one of the things is, I want to become a contributor. You apply to be a contributor, you are added to a waiting list of contributors, and we have content rules that basically thank you for the submission, that warn us about the new profile to be reviewed, and we can do things about it, okay? So the whole point is content rules are really, really powerful. So it's a matter of basically going there, using the ones that are there, or implementing your own. Some new features we had to develop from scratch. First of all, were the aggregator pages. We have a page, for instance, this is a page for an organization called Twitter. So yes, for organization called Twitter. So every time you go, you have a card, there are going to be some tags on the bottom of the card. And some of them are for simply a tag like COVID-19, or are related to people like Elon Musk, location, United States, organization, SpaceX, or Twitter, or Brazilian federal government, and so on. If you click in one of them, you are sent to aggregator page that's going to get a title and a list of everything related to that. We have on the back end already information extracted from Wikipedia through SparkURL, from through PVpedia. So when we talk about Twitter, we can put a small card saying, oh, Twitter is this company, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. We're still working on how to do that properly without removing the focus on the cards themselves. Besides that, we have, and to do this, we are basically using publishing traverse. So it's tags is a browser view, and what happens after is one of the possible tags we have in our catalog. It's quite trivial to implement in Plum. We did a lot of development with Super, as I said, for every new category. For every category, a user can go and follow or unfollow to create their feed. And same thing goes to organization locations, contributors. You can see on the navigation on the left on the screen, you have the categories: politics, health, education, and so on. And you have following my feed, and then US, health, Christoph, United States, COVID-19, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we implement all of those with Super. Every time you go there, we create a soup, we create an entry in the soup, and we can do quick search for this kind of stuff. And one feature that's already in testing is voting up and bookmarking cards. So showing that the card Twitter introduced voice reader for as a more human touch. You can basically say, okay, I want to save this one, or I can vote that. And this is implemented exactly in the same way that we do with the following. So we can run some reports like, okay, this card was bookmarked by 20 people really fast without too much burden on the whole Plone infrastructure. Some of the lessons learned. First of all, we rely a lot on reproducing the live environment on local development machines. So for everything, if I'm going to put a portlet, yes, we still use portlets, or viewlets. Yes, we still use viewlets, but if I'm going to put a portlet or move or remove the text of a portlet, there's always an upgrade step that's going to be executed when we deploy. The idea here is if I download the code base and I do a make install and then make create site, I'm going to see something that's really similar to what users see on pendeck.com. Of course, we do not have the latest content, but we have a data mass of 50 or 60 cards, so we can play with it. But really important lesson here is be aware of configuration stored in the registry. We have we give our team the ability to change parts of the user interface and so on through configurations that are stored in the registry. And if you do not put the purge equal false or purge, I believe it's purge equal false, and you run an upgrade step to update some other registry configuration, you're going to lose the data that was there. not really smart, happened to me once, had to roll back the cloud, get the data, create another upgrade set, and so on. This is also the second point that I highly advise anyone that's working with Plone these days. The Plone training materials is the updated and de facto documentation of Plone. Okay, I'd like to thank Chrissy, I'd like to thank Philip and everyone involved in implementing the training materials. The quality is amazing. And every time I had a doubt about how to implement something, the answer was on the training materials. We still need to update most of the clone documentation for things related to clone 5.2 and Zope 4. But at least on the training materials, this information is really precise. I have something to say. I decided to go without React in the beginning because I thought, okay, I'm going to be more productive. And we are a small team, and it's easier for me to get away with Piazzo, Clontini, and so on. But I used to work with Clone for a living until 2014. And then I went, did all the things with my life, worked with React a lot. And then when I came back, Clone 5 something, the others still here. I'm happy, but we have the new research registries. And doing JavaScript development with the Diazo teaming, with resource registries, and comparing with the experience you have when you do something with Webpack and so on and so forth, it's like mind-blowing. Clone teaming, resource registries, and JavaScript were my nightmare doing the implementation for Pendex. Documentation is there, but if you miss a step, you're gone. And there are some things that are way more complex than they should be. I understand the reasoning behind almost everything there, almost. But in general, what I would say is if I would do again from scratch, I would go straight to Volto. If I need a bunch of JavaScript development, like a JavaScript component and so on, that I actually do. One thing that I was quite surprised is the fact that Chrome lacks a simple and working async or delayed solution. We used to have the Zope Chrome server. It's not amazing, it's not the best solution, but it was there. But it seems it's not working anymore with Zope 4. Anyway, cron jobs exist for a reason, so you can always default back to cron jobs. That was our solution for processes that need to run from time to time. But I would love to have something like they have in Rails or that we had in WebSauna, or a working integration with Celery or any other queue management solution. Because, for instance, I want to tweet about a new card being published with content rules, but only after the card is actually published. In the beginning, we had some race conditions of the tweet was faster than finishing the commit on this UODB. So when the FTT or the Twitter came to generate the image that you see on the tweet, it was not there yet. So kind of problems we had to actually image was there, but permission was not allowing you to see the image. So anyway, we did some workarounds to deal with that, but would love I would love to work on sync or more like a delayed job solution. And as I said, in terms of lessons learned about WebP, one of the things I faced was I dealt with some cases where the image we upload was WebP, but how do I say, the file extension was JPEG. I uploaded, actually, forget about that. Web image uploaded, go to Tumblr. Tumblr looks, oh, it's WebP. Generates all the versions for the image. First user goes, get the image. Amazing. After a few minutes, some users complain that they cannot see the image on iOS. Strange, what was it? Fact that Safari was not supporting WebP at the moment. And that image was cached for everyone on Cloudflare, on Vanish, on Tumblr. We had to use one feature of Clone that I love, and it's quite easy. That's basically you go rename the content type, rename the content, change the URL, and it goes to a new place. All the redirects work. So be really careful with WebP and Tumblr. Our future steps. In the next few weeks, we are implementing the voting bookmarking features for cards. We already have a test for card friends. So I have a card that was published in the morning. In the afternoon, there's a follow-up. We are going to link all these cards so you can basically navigate through the timelines for a specific story happening. We are moving to Elasticsearch as a backend to have some search improvements like I want to do steaming by default, I want to search for this, but also not for this part, and so on and so forth. And we're going to release content rules webhooks that's basically unifying Slack integration, EFTT integration, Zapier integration, and webhooks in general. So you can basically create content rules in your site and say, okay, now go to Zapier every time a news item is published, and go to Zapier and trigger some actions. To go out of beta, first thing is Clone is going to be our headless CMS. We are going for Volto and mobile application soon. That's our top priority. We strongly believe that applications with React or any other type of single-page application, they provide a better user experience. And to be honest, it's way easier to develop than it is to develop with CPT and so on and so forth, especially when you break components into smaller components and so on. Besides that, we are going to integrate language to our submission forms to allow a simple spell checking and in some cases grammar checking for submissions. And we are playing with auto tagging. We do for organizations, organization locations and people. We are doing through Wikipedia, but for tagging, it's an editorial decision. And user management currently is on ZODD. It's the default implementation. We're planning to move to something else and probably use external source and then control authentication in a different way. And I would like to thank you all. Here are our contacts. Érico F at Twitter and PendactHU at Twitter as well. My email, and please visit us and create an account and join us to fight misinformation and bias articles.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Érico. We've got a couple questions in the Slido. First one's from Kim. Who are the contributors?
Contributors is it's a name we gave to people that contribute with cards for our solution. It's That's a awesome. Contributor. Actually, going back to Clone, a contributor has the role of a contributor, and it could be on a different category or in the whole site.
Cool. And the second question from Kim was, are you using Rail storage?
No, I used Rail storage in the past, but one of the things I had in previous projects was the fact that the moment you start using a lot of uploading a lot of images, Rail storage tends to be way too fast. I know there's a new version of Rail storage, but I decided to go with a simple implementation using even the Ansible clone playbook that delivers us with Zio server.
Yeah, simple is always better until it can't be simple again.